The gunshot that shattered the evening silence sent Luna Everett scrambling through the darkened streets of Valentine, Nebraska, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst right through her ribs. Blood soaked through the sleeve of her torn dress where the bullet had grazed her arm, and her legs threatened to give out with every desperate step. She took away from the saloon where everything had gone terribly, catastrophically wrong. The July heat of 1882 still clung to the air even as darkness fell, and sweat mixed with tears on her face as she heard the angry shouts of men behind her, their boots pounding against the wooden boardwalk as they searched for the woman who had witnessed their crime. She had only been serving drinks, trying to earn enough money to save for a ticket east to her sister in Boston. Luna had come west 6 months ago after their parents died of fever, thinking she could make a fresh start in the Nebraska territories. But tonight she had seen something she should never have seen. Walked into the back room at precisely the wrong moment when the 3 cattle rustlers were dividing their stolen money with the corrupt deputy. Their faces had turned toward her with cold recognition, understanding instantly that she would ruin everything. The deputy's hand had gone to his gun before she even had time to scream. She ran, and the bullet that followed her out the back door had torn through fabric and flesh, but miraculously missed anything vital. Now Luna stumbled through the darkness beyond the last buildings of Valentine, her vision blurring as shock and blood loss made her dizzy. She could hear them still searching, spreading out through the town, their voices carrying on the night air. They would kill her if they found her. The deputy had too much to lose, and the rustlers were wanted men who would not hesitate to silence a witness. Her foot caught on something in the darkness and she fell hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. For a moment she lay there gasping, wondering if she should just give up, let the earth swallow her whole. But survival was a powerful instinct. Luna forced herself back to her feet and kept moving, limping now, holding her injured arm close to her body. Ahead in the moonlight she could make out the shape of a small ranch house, a barn beside it, and various outbuildings scattered across the property. She had walked past this place before on her way to the creek to do washing. It belonged to one of the local cowboys, a man who mostly kept to himself. She had no idea if he would help her or turn her over to the men hunting her, but she had no other options left. As she drew closer, Luna could see a dim light in one of the windows of the house. She considered going straight to the door, begging for help, but what if he did not believe her? What if he was friends with the deputy? Terror and indecision froze her in place until she heard the shouts growing closer again. They were fanning out beyond the town now, searching the surrounding ranches. Luna looked around desperately and spotted a small wooden structure she recognized as a chicken coop. Without allowing herself time to reconsider, she hurried toward it as quickly as her failing strength would allow. The door creaked softly as she pulled it open, and immediately a chorus of disturbed clucking erupted from the roosting hens inside. Luna slipped into the small space, pulling the door nearly closed behind her, leaving just a crack so she could see out. The smell of hay and bird droppings filled her nose, and feathers floated in the dim moonlight that filtered through the gaps in the wooden slats. She sank down into the corner, trying to make herself as small as possible, wrapping her good arm around her knees and pressing her injured arm against her body to try to stop the bleeding. The chickens settled somewhat, though they continued to mutter and shift on their roosts, clearly unhappy about the intruder in their space. Luna's whole body shook uncontrollably now, whether from shock, blood loss, fear, or all three combined she could not say. Her teeth chattered despite the warmth of the night. She pressed her face against her knees and tried to breathe quietly, listening for any sound of pursuit. Minutes passed that felt like hours. The shaking only got worse. She was so focused on listening for danger that she did not hear the approach of footsteps until they were very close. Luna's head snapped up, and through the crack in the door, she saw a figure moving through the darkness toward the chicken coop. Her breath caught in her throat. Had they seen her come this way? Was this one of the men hunting her? She pressed herself harder into the corner, knowing there was nowhere else to run, no way to escape if they opened that door. The footsteps stopped just outside, and Luna heard a man's voice, low and cautious. "I know someone is in there. My chickens have been raising hell for the last 10 minutes, and they only do that when something is wrong." There was a pause. "I have a rifle, but I would rather not use it. If you are stealing chickens, just come out peacefully and we can talk about it." Luna's mind raced. The voice did not sound like any of the men from the saloon, but she could not be certain. Her injured arm throbbed with increasing intensity, and she felt lightheaded. She needed help whether she wanted to risk trusting this stranger or not. But before she could make a decision, the door opened wider and moonlight flooded the small space. The man standing there was tall and lean, with broad shoulders and work-worn hands that held a rifle pointed toward the ground rather than at her. He wore plain ranch clothes, denim and cotton, nothing fancy, and a wide-brimmed hat shadowed his face. But as he took in the sight of her huddled in the corner of his chicken coop, covered in blood and shaking, his entire posture changed. He lowered the rifle completely and took a half-step forward. "Jesus Christ," he said softly, and there was genuine concern in his voice. "You are hurt. What happened?" Luna tried to speak, but her voice came out as barely a whisper. "Please do not tell them where I am. They will kill me." The man glanced back toward the direction of town where distant shouts could still be heard, then looked at her again. His jaw tightened with what might have been anger, though she sensed it was not directed at her. "Come inside," he said firmly but gently. "The chickens do not mind, but you need proper help and you need it now. I have medical supplies in the house." "I do not know if I can trust you," Luna managed to say, even as black spots danced at the edges of her vision. "You do not have much choice," he said, and it was not unkind, just honest. "But for what it is worth, I have never turned away someone who needed help, and I am not about to start now. My name is Quinn Ryder. This is my ranch. Now let me help you before you bleed to death in my chicken coop." There was something in his voice, a steadiness that made Luna want to believe him. She tried to stand, but her legs would not cooperate. Quinn immediately set the rifle aside against the wall of the coop and stepped forward, reaching down to help her up. His hands were strong but careful as he slipped an arm around her waist and helped her to her feet. The world tilted dangerously, and she would have fallen if he had not been supporting her weight. "Easy now," Quinn said. "I have got you. Just try to stay conscious a little longer." He half-carried her across the yard to the house, moving quickly but smoothly to avoid jostling her injured arm. Luna was dimly aware of climbing 2 steps onto a porch, of a door opening, of being brought into a warm kitchen lit by a single oil lamp on a rough wooden table. Quinn guided her to a chair and she collapsed into it gratefully. Her head spun and nausea rose in her throat. "Stay with me," Quinn said, moving around the kitchen with swift efficiency. He grabbed a basin from a shelf and filled it with water from a pitcher, then retrieved a wooden box from a cupboard. "I need to see that arm. Can you move it?" Luna tried but gasped in pain. "I think so. It burns." "Looks like a bullet grazed you," Quinn said, kneeling beside her chair and carefully examining the wound without touching it yet. "You are lucky it did not hit deeper. This is going to hurt when I clean it, but it needs to be done. Can you be brave for me?" Luna nodded, biting her lip. Quinn soaked a clean cloth in the water and very gently began washing away the blood. revealing a deep graze that had torn through the flesh of her upper arm but missed the bone. She hissed in pain and gripped the edge of the chair with her good hand, but she did not pull away. His touch was as gentle as anyone could be while cleaning a wound, and she found herself watching his face as he worked. He had strong features, weathered from years in the sun, probably in his late 20s. His eyes were focused intently on what he was doing, and there was a slight furrow between his brows that spoke of concentration and concern. "Who shot you?" Quinn asked as he worked. "And why are men hunting you through Valentine?" Luna took a shaky breath. "I saw something I should not have seen." "Three rustlers dividing money with Deputy Morgan. They know I can identify them. The deputy fired at me when I ran." Quinn's hands stilled for just a moment, and when he looked up at her his eyes were hard. "Deputy Morgan, that bastard. I had my suspicions about him but no proof. He went back to cleaning the wound. You are safe here. I will not let anyone take you." "You do not even know me," Luna said, confused by his immediate declaration. "I know you are hurt and scared and someone tried to kill you," Quinn replied. "That is all I need to know. Now hold still. I need to put some whiskey on this to clean it properly." The whiskey burned like liquid fire, and Luna could not stop the cry that escaped her lips. Quinn murmured apologies as he worked quickly, then wrapped her arm with clean strips of cloth he pulled from his medical box. His hands were sure and steady, clearly experienced with tending injuries. When he finished, he sat back on his heels and looked at her properly for the first time. "You need food and rest," he said. "When did you last eat?" Luna tried to remember. "This morning, I think. Maybe yesterday morning." "I cannot recall." Quinn stood and moved to the stove where a pot sat with what smelled like stew. He ladled some into a bowl and brought it to her with a spoon, then poured her a cup of water from the pitcher. "Eat slowly. Your stomach might not be happy if you eat too fast after what you have been through." Luna took the bowl with trembling hands and sipped at the stew. It was simple but good, rich with meat and vegetables, and warmth spread through her body with each spoonful. Quinn leaned against the counter, watching her with an expression she could not quite read. After a moment, he spoke again. "Those men are still looking for you. They will probably search the ranches once they finish with the town. When they come here, and they will, I need to know if you can stay hidden and quiet." Fear spiked through Luna again. "Where would I hide?" "I have a cellar beneath a trapdoor in the bedroom. It is where I store root vegetables and preserves for winter. There is enough room for you to hide if needed, but first you need to finish eating and get your strength back." As if summoning them with his words, the sound of horses approaching carried through the open window. Quinn moved quickly to the lamp and turned it down to a dim glow, then looked at Luna. "Can you walk?" She nodded and forced herself to stand, ignoring the way the room swayed around her. Quinn took her arm and guided her through a doorway into a small bedroom. He knelt and pulled back a braided rug, revealing a trapdoor set into the wooden floor. He opened it to show a dark space below with a ladder leading down. "I know it looks frightening, but you will be safe down there," Quinn said. "I will leave the door open just a crack so you can hear what is happening. If I say the word storm, you close it completely and stay silent no matter what you hear. Do you understand?" Luna nodded and began climbing down the ladder, though her injured arm made it difficult. The cellar was cool and smelled of earth and stored vegetables. She could make out shelves lining the walls with jars and baskets in the dim light from above. Quinn looked down at her, his face serious. "I will not let them take you," he promised again. Then he lowered the trapdoor until only a thin crack remained, and she heard him pull the rug back into place. Luna stood in the darkness, her heart pounding so hard she was sure anyone above could hear it. She heard Quinn's footsteps moving back to the kitchen, heard the scrape of the chair she had been sitting in, heard him adjusting something. Then came the sound of the front door opening and boots on the porch steps. Male voices, rough and demanding. "Evening, Ryder," came a voice Luna recognized with a jolt of terror. "Deputy Morgan. We are looking for a woman, a saloon girl from town. She is dangerous, possibly armed. Have you seen anyone come through here tonight?" "It is nearly midnight, Morgan," Quinn's voice came back, sounding annoyed at being disturbed. "I have been asleep for the past hour. What would a saloon girl be doing all the way out here?" "She is a witness to a crime," Morgan said, and Luna could hear the lie in his smooth tone. "We need to bring her in for questioning. She is injured, might be looking for help. You mind if we take a look around?" There was a pause that stretched out, tense and dangerous. Then Quinn spoke, his voice harder now. "Actually, I do mind. It is my property and I have rights." "Unless you have a warrant, you can get off my land." "Now do not be difficult, Ryder," Morgan said, and there was a threat in his voice. "We are all on the same side here. Just let us take a quick look and we will be on our way." "Show me a warrant or get off my property," Quinn repeated. "I am well within my rights to refuse an illegal search, and you know it, Deputy." Luna heard movement, scuffling sounds, and her breath caught. Then another voice, one of the other men. "There is a bowl of stew on the table, still steaming, and 2 cups. You said you were asleep." Her heart sank. They would know. Quinn would give her up or they would search anyway and find her. She pressed herself against the earthen wall of the cellar and tried not to breathe. "I woke up hungry," Quinn said calmly. "Is that a crime now? And I always set out 2 cups. My brother died 2 years ago and old habits die hard. Now if you are done interrogating me about my eating habits, I would like you to leave." "Your brother, right," Morgan said, skepticism clear in his voice. "Look, Ryder, I can get a warrant. But by the time I ride to the judge and back, if that girl is here and bleeding out, her death will be on your conscience. Is that what you want?" "If I see an injured woman, I will bring her to the doctor myself," Quinn said. "But I have not seen anyone. Now, for the last time, get off my land before I exercise my right to defend my property." There was a long, tense silence. Luna could barely hear over the rushing of blood in her ears. Finally, Morgan spoke again, his voice tight with barely contained anger. "We will be watching this place, Ryder. If she shows up, you better turn her in. Harboring a criminal is a serious offense." "I will keep that in mind. Good night, Deputy." Luna heard footsteps retreating, the creak of leather saddles and the sound of horses moving away, but she stayed frozen in the cellar, too afraid to move. Minutes passed, perhaps 10 or 15, before she heard the trapdoor being moved aside. Quinn's face appeared above her, barely visible in the darkness. "They are gone for now," he said quietly. "But Morgan was not lying about watching the place. We need to be very careful. Come on up." Luna climbed the ladder with shaking limbs and Quinn helped her out of the cellar. Her legs nearly gave out and he caught her, steadying her. "You are exhausted," he said. "You need to sleep. You can take the bed, I will keep watch." "I cannot take your bed," Luna protested weakly. "You can and you will," Quinn said firmly, guiding her toward the bed in the corner of the room. "I have slept in far worse places, believe me. Right now you need rest more than I do. Your body has been through hell tonight." Luna wanted to argue, but she was too tired, too overwhelmed by everything that had happened. She sank onto the bed and Quinn pulled a quilt over her. The bed smelled like him, like soap and leather and something else she could not name but found oddly comforting. Her eyes were already closing before he even left the room. "Thank you," she whispered. "You did not have to lie for me." "Yes, I did," Quinn said simply from the doorway. "Get some rest. We will figure out what to do in the morning." Luna wanted to ask what he meant, wanted to know why he was helping her when he owed her nothing. But sleep pulled her under before she could form the words. She woke to sunlight streaming through the window, and a moment of complete disorientation. Her arm throbbed with pain, and when she tried to move, her whole body protested. Memory came flooding back, and she sat up too quickly, making her head spin. The bedroom door was open, and she could hear sounds from the kitchen, the clink of dishes, the smell of coffee and bacon. Luna stood carefully and made her way to the doorway. Quinn was at the stove, cooking breakfast, his back to her. He had changed into a clean shirt, and his dark hair was slightly damp, as if he had washed recently. Morning light through the windows made the small kitchen look homey and warm, nothing like the terrifying place it had been in the darkness last night. "Good morning," Quinn said without turning around, as if he had sensed her presence. "How is the arm?" "It hurts," Luna admitted. "But I am alive, thanks to you." "Sit down," Quinn said, turning with a plate of eggs and bacon. "You need to eat. We have things to discuss." Luna sat at the table, and Quinn placed the plate in front of her along with a cup of coffee. He sat down across from her with his own plate, and for a few minutes they ate in silence. Luna watched him over the rim of her coffee cup, studying the man who had saved her life. There was a quiet strength about him, a steadiness that she found reassuring. His hands were scarred and calloused from hard work, and there was a small scar on his left eyebrow that gave him a slightly rugged appearance. "Morgan will be back," Quinn said finally. "He knows something is not right, and he is desperate to find you. But he cannot get a warrant without explaining to a judge why he needs one, and he cannot do that without revealing his involvement with the rustlers." "So what do we do?" Luna asked. "We need proof of what you saw," Quinn said. "A witness testimony might not be enough, especially against a deputy. But if we can find evidence, something concrete that ties Morgan to the rustlers, we can take it to the federal marshal in Omaha." "How do we get evidence without getting killed?" Luna asked. "Those men will shoot on sight if they see me." "I have been thinking about that," Quinn said. "The rustlers have to be keeping the stolen cattle somewhere before they sell them. If we can find where they are holding the herd and catch them in the act, that would be proof enough. I know most of the ranchers around here. I can ask questions, find out who has been losing cattle." "That sounds dangerous," Luna said quietly. "It is," Quinn agreed. "But the alternative is you spending the rest of your life running, and I cannot stomach that. You did nothing wrong. You should not have to pay for Morgan's crimes." Luna looked down at her plate, emotions warring inside her. This man barely knew her, yet he was willing to risk himself to help her. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You could have turned me away last night. You could have told Morgan I was here. Why are you helping me?" Quinn was quiet for a long moment, and when Luna looked up, she found him watching her with an expression that was hard to read. "My brother Jasper, the one I mentioned to Morgan," he said slowly. "He witnessed a crime 2 years ago, a murder. He was going to testify against the man who did it, a wealthy rancher's son. But before he could, the rancher's son and his friends caught him alone on the road. They beat him to death and left him in a ditch." Luna's breath caught. "Quinn, I am so sorry." "The law did nothing," Quinn continued, his voice tight with old pain. "Said there was not enough evidence, even though everyone knew who did it. The rancher had money and influence, and my brother was just a cowboy. His life did not matter to them." He looked at her directly. "So when you showed up in my chicken coop last night, terrified and bleeding because you witnessed corrupt men breaking the law, I made a choice. I will not be like those people who turned their backs on my brother. I will not let them kill you for telling the truth." Tears stung Luna's eyes. "I am so sorry about your brother. No one should have to go through that." "No, they should not," Quinn said. "But it happens. Too often it happens, so we are going to make sure it does not happen to you." Over the next few days, Quinn and Luna settled into a cautious routine. He insisted she stay inside during daylight hours when anyone passing by might see her through the windows. He changed the bandage on her arm twice daily, and she was relieved to see the wound was healing cleanly with no signs of infection. Quinn went into town once, coming back with supplies and information he had gathered carefully from conversations at the general store and the livery stable. 4 ranches have lost cattle in the past month, he told Luna that evening as they sat at the kitchen table. All of them lost stock from the same general area, the northwest section near the river. There is an old line shack out that way, abandoned for years. It would be the perfect place to hold cattle before moving them. So, what is your plan? Luna asked, though part of her was afraid to know. I am going to ride out there tomorrow at dawn, Quinn said. Scout the area, see if I can find any signs of the cattle or the rustlers. If I find something, I will report it to the federal marshal myself. But I need you to stay here and stay hidden. That sounds incredibly dangerous, Luna said, her stomach knotting with worry. I have been handling dangerous situations since I was 16, Quinn said with a slight smile. I will be careful, I promise. The next morning, Luna woke to find Quinn already up and preparing to leave. She watched from the window as he saddled his horse, a sturdy bay gelding, and checked his rifle. He wore his regular work clothes, nothing that would draw attention if someone saw him riding the range. Before he mounted up, he looked back at the house and caught sight of her in the window. He tipped his hat to her and she raised her hand in a small wave, her heart in her throat. The day passed with agonizing slowness. Luna tried to keep busy, cleaning the kitchen and preparing food, but her mind kept drifting to Quinn riding through dangerous territory. What if the rustlers saw him? What if Morgan had men watching the trails? She jumped at every sound, her nerves stretched thin with worry. It was late afternoon when she finally heard the sound of hoofbeats approaching. Luna went to the window and relief flooded through her when she saw Quinn riding up to the barn. He looked tired and dusty but unhurt. She met him at the door as he came up the porch steps. "Did you find anything?" she asked. Quinn nodded, his expression grim. "The cattle are there, at least 100 head from what I could count at a distance. They are being held in a box canyon near the old line shack. I saw 3 men guarding them, but I did not get close enough to identify them clearly." "That is enough to take to the marshal, is it not?" Luna asked hopefully. "It is a start," Quinn said. "But I want to be absolutely certain before we make that move. If we accuse Morgan without ironclad proof and fail, he will know we are onto him and things will get much worse. I am going back tomorrow at dusk. Cattle are usually moved at night to avoid being seen. If I can catch them in the act and get close enough to identify the men working with Morgan, we will have everything we need." Fear gripped Luna's heart. "Quinn, that is too dangerous. What if they catch you?" "They will not," Quinn said with more confidence than she felt he should have. "I know that country like the back of my hand. I will stay downwind, keep to the high ground. They will never know I am there." But Luna could not shake the feeling of dread that had settled over her. That night as they ate dinner, she found herself watching Quinn, memorizing the details of his face, the way he moved, the sound of his voice. The realization hit her with unexpected force. In the week she had been hiding in his home, she had come to care for this quiet, steady man who had risked everything to protect her. It was more than gratitude, though she was deeply grateful. It was the way he looked at her when he thought she was not paying attention, as if she was something precious he needed to protect. It was the gentle way he changed her bandages, his touch always careful despite his work-roughened hands. It was the conversations they had in the evenings, talking about their lives, their losses, their hopes for the future. Quinn had told her about growing up on a small ranch in Kansas, learning the cowboy trade from his father, moving to Nebraska with his brother to start their own place. She had told him about her childhood in Missouri, her parents' general store, her dreams of becoming a teacher before fever took her parents and changed everything. They were two people who had lost so much, finding unexpected connection in impossible circumstances. "You are staring at me," Quinn said, a hint of amusement in his voice. Luna felt heat rise to her cheeks. "I am worried about tomorrow. Please be careful." "I will," Quinn promised. "I have things to live for now." The weight of those words hung in the air between them. Luna met his eyes and saw something there that made her breath catch, something warm and intense that she was afraid to name but desperately wanted to believe in. The next day passed even more slowly than the one before. Quinn left in the late afternoon, planning to be in position before sunset. Luna tried to keep busy, but found herself returning to the window again and again, watching the horizon for any sign of his return. As darkness fell and the hours stretched on with no sign of him, her worry transformed into genuine fear. It was past midnight when she finally heard a horse approaching fast. Luna ran to the door and opened it to find Quinn dismounting quickly, his face set in hard lines. Relief that he was alive warred with fear at his expression. "What happened?" she asked as he hurried up the steps. "I saw them," Quinn said, moving past her into the house and going straight to a drawer where he kept paper and a pencil. "Morgan was there with the 3 rustlers, helping them move the cattle. I got close enough to identify all of them clearly. I am writing down everything I saw, names, descriptions, location, all of it. We need to leave for Omaha at first light." "Leave?" Luna asked, surprised. "It is not safe for either of us here anymore," Quinn said, writing quickly. "One of Morgan's men spotted me. I do not think he got a good look, but he fired a shot and I had to run. They will figure out it was me if they have not already. We need to get this information to the federal marshal before Morgan can act." Fear spiked through Luna. "If they know you were there, they will come here." "I know," Quinn said grimly. "Which is why we are packing tonight and leaving before dawn. We can make Omaha in 3 days if we push hard. Once we have the marshal's protection, we will be safe." They worked quickly through the night. Quinn packed saddlebags with supplies and clothes while Luna prepared food for the journey. He had a second horse, a mare he used for lighter work, and he readied both animals for hard travel. Every sound from outside made them both freeze and listen, but the hours passed without incident. They left the ranch in the darkness before dawn, riding east toward Omaha. Quinn had written a note and left it hidden in the cellar explaining everything, just in case something happened to them. Luna rode beside him as the sun rose over the Nebraska plains, painting the grasslands in shades of gold and amber. Under other circumstances, it would have been beautiful, but all she could feel was the urgency driving them forward and the fear of what might be following behind. They rode hard that first day, stopping only to rest the horses and eat quick meals. Quinn pushed them to cover as many miles as possible before dark. That night they camped in a sheltered spot near a creek, and Quinn insisted on keeping watch while Luna slept. "You need rest too," Luna argued. "I will rest when we are safe," Quinn said. "Please, Luna, let me do this." She finally agreed and wrapped herself in a blanket near the small fire he had built, but sleep was difficult to find, her mind spinning with everything that had happened. She must have eventually drifted off because she woke to find morning light filtering through the trees and Quinn saddling the horses. His face was drawn with exhaustion. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked. "A little," he said, which she suspected was a lie. "We should get moving." The second day was much like the first, long hours in the saddle pushing east. Luna's whole body ached from the hard riding, and her injured arm throbbed with the constant motion despite being mostly healed. But she did not complain. Quinn was driving himself even harder than her. his eyes constantly scanning their backtrail for signs of pursuit. It was late in the afternoon when they heard the sound that made Luna's blood run cold. Horses approaching fast from behind them. Quinn heard it too and immediately urged his horse to a faster pace. Luna followed, her heart pounding. They crested a rise and Quinn pulled up sharply, looking around. "There," he said, pointing to a cluster of rocks and scrub trees off to the north. "We can defend that position if we need to. Come on." They rode hard for the rocks, dismounting quickly when they reached them. Quinn grabbed his rifle and positioned himself where he could see the trail they had been following. Luna crouched beside him, her breath coming in frightened gasps. Within minutes, 4 riders came into view, and even at a distance Luna could make out Deputy Morgan's distinctive gray horse. "They found us," she whispered. "But they do not have us yet," Quinn said grimly. He raised his voice, calling out across the distance. "That is far enough, Morgan. I am armed and I will shoot if you come closer." The riders slowed but kept approaching. Morgan called back, his voice carrying on the wind. "You are making this harder than it needs to be, Ryder. Hand over the girl and ride away. This does not concern you." "It concerns me plenty," Quinn shouted back. "I know what you have been doing, Morgan. I saw you with the rustlers 2 nights ago. I saw the stolen cattle. I have written testimony ready to go to the federal marshal." Morgan's horse stopped, and she could see him talking to the other men with him. After a moment he called back, "You have got no proof that will hold up, and even if you did, you think anyone is going to believe a cowboy over a deputy? You are going to get yourself killed for nothing, Ryder." "I will take my chances," Quinn said. "Now turn around and ride back to Valentine before this gets ugly." Instead of retreating, one of the other men raised his rifle. Quinn reacted instantly, firing a shot that kicked up dirt inches from the man's horse. The animal reared and the man struggled to control it. "The next one does not miss," Quinn warned. A tense standoff ensued, neither side willing to back down. Luna could see Quinn's jaw tight with tension, his finger on the trigger of his rifle. She felt utterly helpless, knowing that her presence had brought danger to this man who had done nothing but try to help her. "Quinn," she said quietly, "maybe you should let me go with them. You have done enough. I do not want you to die because of me." "That is not going to happen," Quinn said flatly, not taking his eyes off the men. "I told you before, Luna, I will not let them take you." "But there are 4 of them and 1 of you," Luna said, tears in her eyes. "The odds are not good." "I have faced worse odds," Quinn said. Then his expression changed. "Luna, look behind them." "What do you see?" Luna looked past Morgan and his men and saw dust rising on the horizon, lots of it, as if many riders were approaching. Morgan and his men had seen it too and turned to look. Within minutes it became clear that a large group of men on horseback was heading their way, at least 20 or more. "Who are they?" Luna asked, afraid it might be more of Morgan's associates, but Quinn's face had broken into a grin. "That is Ben Dalton and his ranch hands. I sent word to him before we left, told him what was happening. He must have rounded up every rancher in the county." As the group of riders drew closer, Morgan and his men began backing their horses away. They were clearly outnumbered and outmatched. The lead rider, a gray-haired man with a weathered face, pulled up near Morgan, and Luna could hear his booming voice even at a distance. "Morgan, you snake. We heard what you have been doing, stealing our cattle and blaming it on drifters. You are done in this county. Now you can ride out peaceful-like, or we can hog-tie you and deliver you to the marshal ourselves. What is it going to be?" Morgan looked at the assembled ranchers, at Quinn behind his defensive position, and seemed to realize he had no options left. "This is not over," he called out, but he turned his horse and began riding away, his 3 companions following. The ranchers let them go and Ben Dalton rode up to where Quinn and Luna were emerging from the rocks. "Quinn, you all right?" Ben asked, dismounting. "We are fine, thanks to you," Quinn said, gripping the older man's hand. "I was not sure my message would reach you in time." "Soon as I got your note, I started spreading the word," Ben said. "Took us a day to gather everyone and track your trail, but we got here when it counted." He looked at Luna. "You must be Miss Everett. Quinn wrote that you witnessed Morgan's crimes. That took courage, miss." "It took desperation," Luna said honestly. "But I am grateful you came, all of you." "We have been losing cattle for months," another rancher said, riding up. "If you can testify against Morgan and his crew, you will have the gratitude of every honest rancher in the territory." Over the next hour, the ranchers shared what they knew. Morgan had fled Valentine, likely heading for the border, but the federal marshal in Omaha had already been contacted and was organizing a manhunt. The rustler's hideout had been raided and the stolen cattle recovered. With Quinn's testimony, Luna's witness account, and the physical evidence, there would be more than enough to convict Morgan and his accomplices if they were caught. "What about us?" Luna asked Quinn quietly as they prepared to continue their journey to Omaha to give their official statements. "What happens after this is over?" Quinn looked at her with an expression that made her heart skip. "That depends. What do you want to happen?" The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Luna thought about the past 2 weeks, about this man who had risked everything to protect her, who had made her feel safe for the first time in months. She thought about the conversations they had shared, the way her heart lifted when she heard his voice, the way she had come to depend on his steady presence. "I do not want to go back to serving drinks in a saloon," Luna said. "And I do not want to go to Boston. I thought that was what I wanted, to be with my sister, but now I am not so sure." "What do you want?" Quinn asked again, softer this time. Luna met his eyes. "I want to stay with you, if you will have me. I know it is sudden, and I know I am probably not thinking clearly after everything that has happened, but I feel safe with you, Quinn. More than that, I feel like I am where I am supposed to be." Quinn's face broke into a smile that transformed his normally serious expression. "I have been hoping you would say something like that. I did not want to push, not after what you have been through. But Luna, these past 2 weeks with you have meant more to me than I can properly express. When I saw you in that chicken coop, terrified and hurt, something in me shifted. I wanted to protect you, yes, but it became more than that so quickly. I have never met anyone like you. You are brave and honest and kind, and I have found myself imagining what it would be like if you stayed, if you made that little ranch house a home." "Are you saying what I think you are saying?" Luna asked, hardly daring to breathe. "I am saying I am falling in love with you," Quinn said simply. "I know it is fast. I know we have only known each other a short time. But when you have lived through what we have, time moves differently. I know what I feel and I know what I want. If you need time, I understand. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel, then stay with me. Let me court you properly. Let me show you that this is real." Tears spilled down Luna's cheeks, but they were happy tears, tears of relief and joy and overwhelming emotion. "I am falling in love with you too," she whispered. "I thought I was imagining it, thought it was just gratitude or fear making me feel this way, but it is more than that. You make me feel alive, Quinn. You make me want to build a future instead of just surviving day to day." Quinn reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away her tears. "Then we will build that future together. I promise you, Luna, I will spend every day trying to make you happy." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, but Luna met him halfway. Their lips touched in a kiss that was gentle and sweet and full of promise. It was a first kiss, tentative and exploring, but beneath it, Luna felt the depth of emotion they both carried. When they finally pulled apart, Quinn rested his forehead against hers. "I have never been so happy to find someone hiding in my chicken coop," he said with a soft laugh. Luna laughed too, the sound bright and genuine. "I have never been so grateful for chickens who do not mind sharing their space." They traveled to Omaha with Ben and several other ranchers who wanted to ensure they arrived safely. The federal marshal took their statements and assured them that everything would be done to apprehend Morgan and the rustlers. With multiple witnesses and physical evidence, the case was solid. The marshal advised them that they would likely need to testify at a trial, but for now, they were free to return home. Home. The word resonated in Luna's heart as they rode back to Valentine. Quinn's small ranch was becoming home to her, more than anywhere had felt since her parents died. When they finally arrived back at the property after more than a week away, Quinn helped her down from her horse and they stood for a moment just looking at the house, the barn, the chicken coop that had started everything. "Welcome home," Quinn said softly. "Welcome home," Luna echoed, and she meant it with all her heart. The next few months passed in a blur of happiness that Luna had never imagined possible. Quinn courted her properly, despite the fact that she was already living in his house. He took her on picnics by the creek, taught her to ride better so they could explore the ranch together, brought her wildflowers from the prairie. At night, they sat on the porch and talked for hours, sharing their dreams and fears, learning each other's histories, building the foundation of something lasting. Luna took over the household tasks, cooking and cleaning, but Quinn never made her feel like a servant. He treated her as an equal partner, asking her opinion on ranch decisions, teaching her about the cattle business, including her in every aspect of his life. She found she had a knack for the chickens, who produced more eggs under her care than they ever had for Quinn alone. She started a vegetable garden and took pride in contributing to their food supplies. The town of Valentine slowly learned the truth about Deputy Morgan, who was eventually captured trying to cross into Wyoming and brought back to face trial. Luna and Quinn both testified, and seeing Morgan sentenced to 15 years in prison brought a sense of closure that Luna badly needed. The rustlers received similar sentences, and the ranchers of the county could finally breathe easier. On a clear day in late October, 6 months after Luna had hidden shaking in Quinn's chicken coop, they stood together in front of a circuit preacher in the small church in Valentine. Luna wore a simple dress in pale blue that Quinn had bought for her in Omaha, and Quinn wore his best suit, his hair neatly combed and his face freshly shaved. Ben Dalton stood as Quinn's witness, and the preacher's wife stood for Luna since her sister had not been able to make the journey from Boston in time. "Do you, Quinn Ryder, take Luna Everett to be your lawfully wedded wife?" the preacher asked. "I do," Quinn said, his voice strong and sure, his eyes locked on Luna's face. "And do you, Luna Everett, take Quinn Ryder to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do," Luna said, her voice thick with emotion but certain. "Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Nebraska, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Quinn pulled Luna close and kissed her with all the love and tenderness he had shown her since that first frightening night. The small gathering of ranchers and their families who had come to support them cheered and clapped. Luna felt joy bubble up inside her, bright and effervescent. She was married to the man she loved, the man who had saved her life and stolen her heart, the man she would spend the rest of her days loving. The reception was held at Ben Dalton's ranch, with food and music and dancing that went on into the evening. Luna danced with Quinn under the stars, his arms strong around her, and thought about how far she had come from that terrified woman fleeing through the darkness. She had found not just safety but love, not just shelter but home. When they finally returned to their own ranch that night, Quinn carried her over the threshold in the traditional way, both of them laughing. He set her down gently in the kitchen and pulled her close again. "I love you, Mrs. Ryder," he said, testing out her new name. "I love you, Mr. Ryder," Luna replied. "Thank you for taking me in that night. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for loving me." "Thank you for being brave enough to trust me," Quinn said. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for choosing to build a life with me." Their wedding night was tender and sweet, filled with whispered words of love and gentle discoveries. Quinn was patient and caring, making sure Luna felt safe and cherished every moment. When they finally fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, Luna felt a peace she had never known before, a sense of belonging that went soul deep. The first winter of their marriage was cold but cozy. They spent long evenings by the fire, Quinn reading aloud from books while Luna mended clothes or worked on a quilt. They talked about their plans for the ranch, about expanding the herd in the spring, about building a bigger house someday when they needed more room. "Why would we need more room?" Luna asked innocently, though she had her suspicions. Quinn smiled and pulled her closer. "For the children we will have if God wills it. I want a house full of noise and laughter, full of our family." "How many children do you want?" Luna asked, her heart swelling at the thought. "As many as you are willing to give me," Quinn said. "But there is no rush. We have all the time in the world to build our family." But as it turned out, they did not have as much time as Quinn thought. By February, Luna was certain she was pregnant. She waited to tell Quinn until she was completely sure, then surprised him one evening after dinner. "I have something to tell you," she said, taking his hands in hers. "I am going to have a baby. We are going to be parents." The expression of pure joy that crossed Quinn's face was something Luna would treasure forever. He let out a whoop of happiness and picked her up, spinning her around before setting her down quickly and apologetically. "I am sorry. I should be more careful. Are you all right?" "When?" "How are you feeling?" Luna laughed at his sudden nervousness. "I am fine. I think the baby will come in late September or early October, and I feel wonderful, truly." Quinn placed his hand gently on her still flat stomach with a look of wonder. "Our baby is in there. We made a life together." "We did," Luna agreed, covering his hand with hers. "Are you happy?" "Happy does not even begin to describe what I feel," Quinn said. "I am blessed beyond measure. I have you, and now we are going to have a child. I never imagined my life could be this good." "Neither did I," Luna said. "A year ago I was alone and scared, just trying to survive. Now I have a husband I love, a home, and a baby coming. It feels like a miracle." "You are the miracle," Quinn said, pulling her close. "You walked into my life and changed everything." The pregnancy progressed smoothly. Luna continued with her usual work around the ranch, though Quinn fussed over her constantly, insisting she not lift anything heavy or overdo it. She found his protectiveness endearing rather than annoying, a sign of how much he loved her and their unborn child. As her belly grew, Quinn took to talking to the baby in the evenings, telling their child stories about the ranch, about the horses and cattle, about the wide Nebraska sky. "You think it is a boy or a girl?" Luna asked one night as they lay in bed, Quinn's hand resting on her swollen stomach. "I do not care either way," Quinn said honestly. "As long as the baby is healthy and you are safe, that is all that matters to me." "But if you had to guess," Luna pressed. Quinn was quiet for a moment. "I think it might be a boy. The way he kicks, he has got a strong will already." "Or she has a strong will," Luna countered. "Girls can be strong too." "That is true," Quinn agreed. "If she is anything like her mother, she will be the strongest person I know." Labor began on a cool evening in late September. Quinn sent for the midwife, a capable woman named Mrs. Henderson, who had delivered half the babies in the county. Luna tried to stay calm as the contractions grew stronger and closer together, but fear crept in as the hours wore on and the pain intensified. Quinn stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with a cool cloth, murmuring encouragement. "You are doing so well," he told her during a particularly difficult contraction. "You are the bravest person I know. Just a little longer, love." "I cannot do this," Luna gasped, exhausted and hurting. "Yes, you can," Quinn said firmly. "You survived being shot at and hunted. You rode for 3 days straight to Omaha. You faced down corrupt lawmen and testified in court. You can do this, Luna. You can do anything." His confidence in her gave Luna strength. She bore down when Mrs. Henderson told her to push, gripping Quinn's hand so hard she was sure she was breaking his fingers. And then, just before dawn, a baby's cry filled the room and Mrs. Henderson announced, "It is a boy. You have a son." Luna collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face. Quinn kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips, murmuring, "You did it. You were amazing. I love you so much." Mrs. Henderson cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a soft blanket, then placed him in Luna's arms. He was tiny and perfect, with a cap of dark hair and a red face scrunched up in displeasure at being born. Luna stared at him in wonder, unable to believe that this little person was hers, was theirs. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "We are your mama and papa, and we love you so much already." Quinn reached out with one finger and touched his son's tiny hand. The baby's fingers reflexively curled around Quinn's finger and held on. Quinn made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "He is perfect. Luna, look at him. We made this perfect little person. What should we name him?" Luna asked, looking up at Quinn. They had discussed names but never decided definitively. Quinn looked at his son with an expression of such love it made Luna's heart ache. "What about Thomas? After your father?" Luna's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Thomas Ryder. I think that is perfect. Papa would have been so proud." "Thomas Ryder it is," Quinn said. "Welcome to the world, son." The first few months with a newborn were exhausting but joyful. Thomas was a good baby for the most part, though he had strong lungs and was not shy about using them when he was hungry or needed changing. Quinn proved to be a devoted father, getting up in the middle of the night to bring Thomas to Luna for feeding, walking the floor with him when he was fussy, singing off key lullabies that somehow always put the baby to sleep. Luna watched her husband with their son and fell even more deeply in love with him. Quinn was patient and gentle, never complaining about the lack of sleep or the constant demands of caring for an infant. He took to fatherhood as naturally as he did everything else, with steady competence and deep love. When Thomas was 6 months old, Luna realized she was pregnant again. She was surprised it had happened so quickly, but Quinn was overjoyed at the news. "Our children will be close in age," he said happily. "They will be playmates and friends. Or they will fight constantly," Luna said with a laugh. "That is what siblings do. Then they will fight and make up and learn how to love each other anyway," Quinn said, "like proper brothers and sisters." Their second child, a daughter they named Sarah after Quinn's mother, was born in late summer of 1884. She had her father's dark eyes and her mother's delicate features, and from the moment she was born she had Quinn wrapped around her tiny finger. He held her for hours, just staring at her face, marveling at how something so small and perfect could exist. "We have a son and a daughter," Quinn said one evening as they sat on the porch, Sarah asleep in his arms and Thomas playing with wooden blocks at their feet. "Our family feels complete." "Is 2 children enough for you?" Luna asked, curious about his feelings. "If you are happy with two, then I am happy with two," Quinn said. "But if you want more someday, I would not complain. I love being a father, Luna. I love watching them grow and learn. Every day is an adventure." As it turned out, they would have more. Over the next 8 years, Luna gave birth to 4 more children. Another son they named Henry, twin girls they called Emma and Grace, and a final daughter named Clara. Their little house became crowded and chaotic, full of noise and laughter and occasional tears. Quinn kept his promise to build a bigger house, a sturdy 2-story structure with enough bedrooms for their growing family, and a wide porch where they could sit in the evenings and watch the children play. The ranch prospered under Quinn's careful management. He expanded the herd, hired a few hands to help with the work, and earned a reputation as a fair and honest rancher. Luna managed the household, and the children with the same efficiency and grace she brought to everything. She became known in Valentine as a woman of strength and kindness, always willing to help a neighbor in need. As the years passed and their children grew, Quinn and Luna often reflected on the night that had brought them together. It became a story their children loved to hear, especially as they got older and could appreciate the drama and danger of it. "Tell us again how you met Mama," Thomas would ask. Even though he had heard the story dozens of times, Quinn would pull Luna close and begin the tale. "Your mama showed up shaking in my chicken coop one night, scared half to death and bleeding from a bullet wound. And I said to her, 'Come inside, the chickens do not mind.' And then Papa saved Mama from the bad men," Sarah would chime in, her eyes wide. "Papa and all the ranchers," Luna would correct. "But yes, your father saved me in many ways. He gave me a home and a family and a life I never dreamed I could have. And Mama saved me right back," Quinn would add. "She taught me that it was possible to love again after losing my brother. She filled this house with light and laughter. She gave me all of you. I am the luckiest man in Nebraska, possibly in the whole country." Their children would groan at the mushiness of it all, but Luna could see the smiles on their faces, the way they looked at their parents' obvious love for each other with a mixture of embarrassment and security. They were growing up knowing they were loved, knowing their parents were devoted to each other and to them, and that foundation would serve them well in their own lives. On their 15th wedding anniversary, Quinn and Luna took a rare evening away from the children, leaving them in the capable hands of their eldest son Thomas, who was now 18 and responsible beyond his years. They rode out to the creek where they had gone on their first real date, spreading a blanket under the stars and sharing a simple meal. 15 years, Luna said, marveling at how quickly the time had passed. "Sometimes it feels like just yesterday I was hiding in your chicken coop, terrified and alone. And sometimes it feels like I have loved you my entire life," Quinn said, taking her hand. "These have been the best 15 years of my life, Luna. Every day with you is a gift, even the hard days." Luna asked with a smile. "Even when the children are sick or the cattle prices drop or we have to repair the barn roof in the rain, even then," Quinn said firmly, "because we face those challenges together. That is what makes it bearable, what makes it worthwhile. Having you by my side through everything." Luna leaned her head on his shoulder, looking up at the vast expanse of stars overhead. "I never thought my life would turn out this way. When I came west, I was just trying to survive, to scrape together enough money to escape. But then I met you, and suddenly I was not just surviving anymore, I was living. Really, truly living." "We both were," Quinn said. "I existed before you, went through the motions, but I was not fully alive either, not after losing Jasper. You reminded me what it meant to hope, to dream, to love. You gave me a reason to build something lasting instead of just passing time." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the peace and each other's presence. Then Luna spoke again. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had not hidden in your chicken coop that night? What if I had gone somewhere else?" "I try not to think about that," Quinn admitted. "Because the idea of a world where I never met you, where we never built this life together, is too painful to consider. Fate brought you to my door, Luna. Or divine providence, or blind luck, whatever you want to call it. But something greater than us decided we were meant to be together, and I thank God for it every single day." "So do I," Luna whispered. "So do I." They stayed out under the stars for hours, talking and laughing and remembering, before finally riding back to their home and their children. The house was quiet when they arrived, all 6 children asleep in their beds. Quinn and Luna moved through the house, checking on each child, tucking in a blanket here, smoothing back hair there, just taking a moment to appreciate these lives they had created together. In their own bedroom, as they prepared for sleep, Quinn pulled Luna into his arms. "I love you," he said simply. "More now than ever before, if that is possible." "It is possible," Luna said, "because I feel the same way. My love for you has only grown deeper with time, Quinn. You are my rock, my partner, my best friend, my love. Everything." They kissed, a kiss that held 15 years of love and commitment, and then settled into bed, wrapped in each other's arms the way they had been since that first night after their wedding. The years continued to pass. Their children grew up, one by one leaving the nest to pursue their own dreams and build their own families. Thomas took over more and more of the ranch operations, proving to be a natural cattleman like his father. Sarah married a schoolteacher and moved to Omaha, writing long letters home about city life. Henry went east to study law, determined to fight injustice after hearing his parents' stories about corrupt Deputy Morgan. The twins Emma and Grace opened a dress shop in Valentine, their designs becoming popular throughout the county. And Clara, their youngest, surprised everyone by deciding to become a doctor, traveling to Chicago to attend medical school. Quinn and Luna supported each of their children's choices, even when it meant saying goodbye and watching them move far from home. They took pride in the strong, capable people their children had become, seeing in them the best parts of both their parents. As they grew older, Quinn's dark hair turned silver at the temples and lines deepened around his eyes from years of squinting at the Nebraska sun. Luna's once dark hair became streaked with gray, and her hands showed the wear of decades of hard work. But to each other, they were still the young man and woman who had fallen in love under the most unlikely circumstances. They spent more time on the porch in the evenings, watching the sunset over the prairie, holding hands and sharing comfortable silence. The ranch was quieter now with most of the children gone, but it was still home, still the place where they had built a life together. On their 30th anniversary, all 6 of their children returned home for a celebration. There were now grandchildren too, 11 in total, running around the property and filling it once again with noise and laughter. Quinn and Luna stood on the porch watching the chaos, their arms around each other, and marveled at what they had created. 30 years ago, I was a scared young woman hiding in a chicken coop, Luna said. Look at us now. Look at what we built, Quinn corrected. All of this, our children, our grandchildren, this ranch, this life. We built it together, Luna, you and me side by side. That evening, the whole family gathered for a meal. Thomas stood to give a toast. To our parents, he said, raising his glass, who taught us what true love looks like, who showed us that family is the most important thing in the world, who proved that sometimes the worst moments in our lives can lead to the greatest blessings. We are all here because you two found each other on a dark night 30 years ago, and we are so grateful you did. Happy anniversary, Ma and Pa. Happy anniversary, the whole family chorused, and Luna felt tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears, grateful tears. Quinn raised his own glass and looked directly at Luna. "To my wife, my partner, my everything. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, and I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Here is to 30 more years if we are blessed with them." "To 30 more years," Luna echoed, clinking her glass against his. The celebration went late into the night, with music and dancing and storytelling. Quinn danced with Luna the way he had at their wedding, his steps a little slower now, but his arms just as strong, his love just as evident. Their children and grandchildren watched with smiles, seeing the enduring romance that had shaped all their lives. Quinn and Luna did not get 30 more years together, but they got close. They celebrated their 50th anniversary surrounded by their now grown grandchildren and even a few great-grandchildren. They were in their 70s by then, both moving slower, both feeling the weight of their years, but their love remained as strong as ever. Luna woke one morning in their 53rd year of marriage to find Quinn already awake beside her, watching her face in the early light. "What are you doing?" she asked with a sleepy smile. "Memorizing you," Quinn said softly. "I never want to forget a single detail of your face, the way you look when you first wake up, the sound of your voice, the feeling of you beside me. I want to carry it all with me wherever I go." Luna's heart clenched with understanding. They were not young anymore. Their time together, as precious as it had been, was drawing toward its natural end. "I am memorizing you too," she whispered. "Every single day, Quinn, you are etched into my soul." "We have had a good life, have we not?" Quinn asked. "The best life," Luna confirmed. "Better than I ever dreamed possible. You made me happier than I knew a person could be." "You did the same for me," Quinn said. "When my time comes, I want you to know that I regret nothing. Every moment with you was a gift. Every challenge we faced together made us stronger. Every joy we shared made life worth living. You are my greatest love, Quinn Ryder. You always will be." They held each other as the morning light grew stronger, two people who had built a lifetime together from a single night of fear transformed into hope. Quinn passed away peacefully in his sleep 2 years later, at the age of 76. Luna was beside him, as she had been for 55 years of marriage. The whole family gathered for the funeral, and it seemed like everyone in Valentine and the surrounding counties came to pay their respects to a man who had been respected and loved by all who knew him. Luna stood at the graveside as they lowered Quinn's casket into the ground, surrounded by their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She placed a single white rose on the casket, her hand trembling but steady. "Rest well, my love," she whispered. "I will carry you in my heart until we meet again." She lived another 5 years without him, years that felt both long and short. Her children worried about her living alone on the ranch, but Luna refused to leave. This was the home she and Quinn had built together, and she wanted to spend her remaining days there, surrounded by memories of their life. She tended the garden Quinn had helped her plant decades ago. She fed the chickens that were descendants of the ones who had sheltered her that first night. She sat on the porch in the evenings and talked to Quinn as if he were still beside her, telling him about their grandchildren's accomplishments, about the changes in Valentine, about how much she missed him. On a warm September evening in her 81st year, Luna's children found her on the porch, sitting in the rocking chair Quinn had made for her on their 20th anniversary. She had passed peacefully, a small smile on her face, looking out over the prairie she had loved for so many years. They buried her beside Quinn in the Valentine Cemetery, and the whole town turned out once again to say goodbye to a woman who had touched so many lives with her kindness and strength. On her headstone, their children had inscribed the words, She found love in a chicken coop and built a lifetime of joy. The ranch stayed in the family, passed down through the generations along with the story of Quinn and Luna, the cowboy and the woman he saved who ended up saving him right back. Their great-great-grandchildren still heard the tale, still visited the old cemetery to leave flowers on the graves of the couple who had started it all. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the Nebraska wind whispered through the grass, people said they could hear the echo of laughter from the old ranch house, the sound of two people who had loved each other across all the years of their lives and beyond. A love story that had started with a terrified woman hiding in a chicken coop and a cowboy who said, "Come inside, the chickens do not mind," and changed both their lives forever. Their love became a legend in Valentine, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could be found. That sometimes the most unlikely encounters lead to the greatest love stories, that courage and kindness could overcome fear and danger, that two broken people could heal each other and build something beautiful together. The old chicken coop still stood on the property, preserved by the family as a reminder of where it all began. Young couples in love sometimes visited it, hoping that standing in the place where Quinn and Luna's story started would bring them the same kind of lasting happiness. And more than once, people reported seeing two figures standing near the old coop at dusk, an older couple holding hands and looking at each other with a love that transcended time and death itself. Whether that was true or just romantic fancy, no one could say for certain. But everyone who heard the story of Quinn and Luna agreed on one thing. Theirs was a love for the ages, proof that sometimes the most beautiful things in life come from the most unexpected places, and that true love, once found, never really dies. It lives on in the hearts and memories of those who witnessed it, in the family that was built on its foundation, in the very land where two souls found each other and chose to walk through life together, hand in hand, heart to heart, from that first frightening night until the very end.